Hi, my name is Hannah and I am a certified trauma-informed yoga teacher, and in this 30-minute class today we will be exploring releasing held trauma in the shoulders and chest area, essentially the heart space. And usually when we hold a lot of sensation and somatic memories in this area, it can show up as really rounded shoulders, kind of curling inward toward oneself. It can also show up as tight, tense shoulders and maybe coming up toward the ears, as well as just an overall sense of tightness, heaviness in the chest, over the heart, and even also behind the heart, so the middle of your back, upper middle, right behind where your heart would be. And as we explore all of these shapes that we're about to get into, just a gentle reminder, or if this is your first trauma-informed yoga class, letting you know that everything in this class is an invitation. This is your body, your practice. I am not an authority figure. I am just a guide. I am just here to provide you with options, but ultimately the choice is always yours and your choice is always honored. So you're going to hear me give options in class today, such as option 1, option 2, or you might explore this or this. And when you are presented with those options, just so you know, those are genuine. Those are 100% genuine options in the sense that you can choose whatever you want. Not just within those options, but outside of those options as well. If you have 2 blocks, that would be helpful. It's not required, but if you have them, you can maybe have them nearby, as well as a blanket or 2, or if you don't have a blanket on hand, you could always use a towel or a beach towel. And a bolster would be nice, but you don't have to have a bolster. So lots of props that we could use, and then I'll provide you with options in case you don't have those props on hand. And I invite you to start here in a seated shape. I'm sitting on my bolster, and I have a nice blanket just supporting my knees, but you can sit in any way that feels right to you. And then once you kind of get adjusted, get settled, if it feels okay to close your eyes, then you might do so. But you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. If you prefer to keep your gaze open, you might just stare down the bridge of your nose, allowing your eyes to rest on a still, unmoving spot. You might find stillness in the body, or if you feel like there's a little bit of energy that wants to keep you moving, that's okay. You might sway from side to side, rocking. You might adjust your shape of choice. And so wherever you're at, eyes open or closed, movement or stillness, I invite you to scan through your body in a way that feels natural to you. As we come into these heart-opening shapes, we will be exploring the front of the heart and the back of the heart. And it's very normal and natural to experience an emotional release. You may or may not cry or have other emotions come up. And just know that whatever your experience is, whatever it looks like for you, it is welcome. There is no right or wrong way to experience these next few moments together. And when you are done with your body scan, if you'd like, you could shift your awareness to your breath. You don't have to force yourself to breathe in any particular way, but you might just simply notice that you're breathing. If you notice that your breath starts to change because you've noticed it, that's okay too. You can allow your breath to naturally regulate. And if it feels welcome, you might decide to inhale and roll your shoulders up toward your ears, and then exhale, roll the shoulders back and down away from the ears. You could take a few more just like that at your own pace. Maybe you take one more inhale and exhale. And then the next time your shoulders release down away from the ears, you could allow them to settle there. Option to bring your right ear toward your right shoulder, opening up the left side of your neck. If it feels welcome, you could take the left ear to the left shoulder, maybe going back and forth with your neck at a pace that feels natural to you. And this is option one here. You could continue to move back and forth with your neck. Or if you'd like to find some stillness, you could allow your ear to rest toward your shoulder. It doesn't matter which side, but I'm going to start on my right side. So my right ear is by my right shoulder, and if you want to pause here, you can. If you want to stack on top of this, you might just simply extend your left arm away from you. Maybe your fingertips touch the floor, maybe they float above your mat, but either way, this is an option. You might even notice that by extending your left arm or the opposite arm of wherever your head is leaning, it may increase the sensation in your neck. And so you can decide for yourself if that is welcome or not, because you could always release your left arm, your left hand. And we'll be here for just one more breath. And then if you're ready to release, you could bring your left arm back in if it was extended, followed by the neck, and just pausing here at center for one inhale and exhale, noticing any difference. And then if you'd like to switch sides, you could allow your head to go to the opposite shoulder. Option one. Option two is maybe you extend your right arm, or the opposite of wherever you were the first time. And we'll take just another 2 rounds of breath here. And if you feel complete, you could bring your arm back in. Maybe taking a few shoulder rolls, a few natural movements. And if you'd like, you could join me in a tabletop shape. I'm going to use my blanket underneath my knees just to provide some cushion. So if you want to do that, you can. It might be helpful to have a second blanket nearby just to have it on hand. So coming here into a tabletop shape, here's option one. And we'll begin to just move organically, moving through your side body, your ribs. Maybe you explore a cat-cow, starting to inhale and allow your spine, your stomach to drape down towards the earth. And then as you exhale, you might start to curl your spine up towards the sky. So this is our option 1 from Tabletop. Taking a cat-cow, moving fluidly in and out of these 2 shapes. A second option is to take a little bit more of a spinal roll, kind of like a wave moving in and out. So you could start just by draping your spine down toward the mat, and then allowing your hips to shift back toward your heels as you continue to draw your heart space forward. And then starting to round, curling inward, coming into that rainbow shape with your spine and rocking forward. So this is option 2. Finding a rhythmic movement. Noticing the back of your heart as your spine curves up. Noticing the front of your heart when your spine curves forward. If at any point or for any reason this feels like there's just a bit too much exposure here, you could always take your blanket, open it up to the desired length, and drape it over your hips to provide a little bit more protection. And notice that you can move just as easily with the blanket as you move without it. And we'll take another 1 or 2 movements here. And then the next time you come to center, you might start to find some stillness as we've now prepped our spine. If you have blocks, you could grab them and place them at their lowest height. And here we'll be increasing the sensation of the heart opening shapes that we're going to be moving into. And so now that we've kind of warmed up, just know that if for any reason at any time you need to leave the shape before I do, you absolutely can. You don't need my permission to do that. You can listen to your body. If you don't have blocks, that's okay. It's going to be the same shape, just minus the blocks. So a couple options here. Option 1, you could bring your hands to the blocks, and our hands are going to end up a little bit further away, so you might need to extend them out ahead of you. And with our knees connected to the mat, and again, you could use a blanket here to drape over your hips. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale. And as we exhale, you could start to send the hips back as your heart comes down toward the mat. Now this is a really big heart opener. There is a lot happening here. If this feels like, whoa, this is too intense, I need something a little bit softer to start with, that's okay. Here's option 2. And if you're in option 1 and you're really enjoying it, you can just continue to stay there. Option 2 is to take a child's pose. So your knees go a little bit wider than hip distance. Your toes can touch back behind you as you sit your hips back toward your heels. Hands can still be on the blocks. So it's a very similar shape, but it's a little bit more grounded, not so high up off of the mat. So you choose which one feels best. And again, if you don't have blocks, that's okay. Your hands would just go on your mat. We'll take another 2 rounds of breath wherever you are. And as you breathe, can you imagine that your breath is going directly into your heart? Where do you need that breath to go? Do you need it to go to the front of your heart? Or do you need it to go to the back of your heart? Only you can answer that. Last breath here, inhaling at your own pace. Option to sigh out your exhale. You You can stay here as long as you want if you're not ready to leave. And then when you decide that you are ready, if you are in puppy pose, you could lift your head, start to engage your core just to help yourself up. And then shifting your hips forward and walking your hands back. If you'd like to, you could sit back on your heels for a moment, maybe roll out the shoulders, roll out the wrists. Take a second here to feel into your body and notice what's coming up for you. When we have spent years sometimes in protective positioning around our own hearts, it can be a lot to open up these areas. So we're taking it slow. There's no need to rush. When you decide you're ready for the next shape, I'll meet you on our stomachs. I'm going to move my blanket out of the way so that I'm on a completely flat surface. Coming down onto your stomach. If you'd like to take just a little rest here for a moment, you might use your forearms as a pillow for your forehead. Just taking 1 or 2 breaths. Adjusting any area that needs to be adjusted. And then if you'd like to join me for a Cobra pose, you could bring your hands back, palms face down on the mat, and roughly underneath your shoulders, but it doesn't have to be exact. There's no science here. Do what feels right to you. And then inhaling, you might start to press your hands into the floor and lift your heart space up off of the mat. Maybe even taking your gaze forward. And then as you exhale, you could hold it there or you could roll right back down, kind of going back to those fluid wave-like motions. Inhaling, lifting your heart only as much as you want to. It could be just an inch off of the floor. It could be 10 inches off of the floor. There is no right or wrong here. Tune into your body, tune into your heart space. Let's take another one just like that as we inhale, peeling the shoulders back, shining the heart space forward. And then exhale, settle back in. So if you want, you can continue taking that movement, or you might explore taking your hands out to the left and right. So I'm tenting my fingertips on the floor, and then I'm lifting my elbows. My hands are roughly underneath my elbows. They're actually a little bit wider than that though. Same movement, kind of. We'll inhale, press ourselves up. And then as you exhale, option 2, drop your left shoulder forward and look over your right shoulder. So we're coming into a dancing cobra, adding a little bit of a twist. Inhaling for center. Exhale, look over your opposite shoulder. If you want to, you could take another 2 or 3 movements. I guess it'd be 2 to 4, so you can do 1 on each side. Starting to find completion with our last one. And I'll meet you back at center, wherever you were, whether you were in the dancing cobra or the first cobra that we were doing. And if you'd like, you could just rest for a moment, resting your forehead. Either turning one cheek to rest on the mat or resting your forehead on your arms. Can you tune into the space around your heart? Let's focus on the front of the heart, your chest, your shoulders. Option to take a conscious cleansing breath in and out, maybe breathing in through your nose and out of your mouth. When you decide you're ready to move on, you might come back up toward your elbows or even your hands. And now we're going to focus on the back of the heart. So you could extend your left arm forward so that you have some space in between your elbow and the floor. And then inhale, reaching the right arm back. And then palm face up toward you, starting to needle it through and resting your right arm, your right shoulder on the floor. Now, here's option one. You could be right here, maybe using your left forearm as a pillow. And we're just going to open up one side at a time. If this feels really intense, what you could do is take a blanket. So since I'm on my right side here, in order to prevent my right shoulder from coming too far down to the floor, because that's kind of what creates this sensation, you could use a blanket, fold it up to your desired thickness, and then allow your shoulder to rest on your blanket, and it's like you're bringing the floor to you. And you can adjust as needed, and notice if that helps. If that provides a support, if your body isn't ready to come all the way down to the mat. Because if it's not, that's okay. It's not a reflection on you or your body. Your body is just asking for some different support. So can you honor that? And be here for another 4 rounds of breath. And as you breathe, could you bring some awareness into the space behind your heart, the very backside of your heart? Maybe sending your breath to that space behind your right shoulder blade. And if it's welcome, you might even give yourself permission to soften a little bit. Because that's the thing about protecting ourselves, protecting our own hearts, is it can feel tiring, it can feel hard. And just for this moment, is it okay? Is it safe to soften just a little bit? If you feel complete on this side, you might start to lift your head, plant your left hand on the floor and unravel your right arm, maybe giving it a stretch back, maybe rolling through your right shoulder and wrist. And then we'll switch sides. So planting your right hand on the floor. Inhale, reaching your left arm back. Palm face up as you needle through. If you need to move your blanket to the other side, please do. As we settle in here. Now we are behind the left shoulder blade. We're really behind the heart, especially on this side because the heart sits to the left. Adjust as much as you need to. Settle in. And we'll be here for another 4 rounds of breath. Holding trauma around our heart space can also show up metaphysically, so emotionally and energetically, as feeling disconnected from ourselves, feeling disconnected from others, along with many other things, but that's one of them. So as we take our last 2 breaths here on this side, does it feel safe enough just for this moment to connect with your own heart? Knowing that you don't have to change anything, you don't have to fix, you don't have to save, just being with yourself. As you are, just right in this moment. And if you feel complete and you're ready to unravel out of this shape, you could press your right hand to the floor, move through your left arm, and then option to roll over onto one side, just resting in this side-lying shape for a moment. Feeling your body. And then if you are ready to, you could continue to roll over onto your back, having a bolster or block nearby. And as you come onto your back, if you need to shift around, wiggle around, that's okay, that's welcome. And if your lower back is feeling a little tender, a little tight, you might pull your knees in toward your chest, maybe rocking from side to side to release your lower back, and then planting your feet on the floor, about hip distance apart, give or take. Now, for this next shape, we're going to be coming into bridge pose, and I'll provide you with a couple different options. And when we come into bridge pose, it's really important that for the safety of your neck, you don't look from left to right. So you can do what you choose to do with your body, but just a word of caution to protect your neck by keeping your head straight, your gaze forward. So if you need to watch me for this first moment, then please do before we get into it. So option 1 is to start by peeling your tailbone off of the floor, pressing your feet down into the mat, and just allowing your spine to float up, and then allowing your spine to float down. You could continue this fluid movement, peeling up, maybe taking an inhale, and then exhale, settling down. If movement feels best for your body today, this is a great place to be. A second option is to find stillness in it. And so that looks like pressing your feet into the floor. And the second option would be to take a bolster or a block and slide it underneath your lumbar spine. So not necessarily on your tailbone, that could cause some discomfort, but above your tailbone, it should feel stable, should feel solid and steady. And if it causes you pain, please give yourself permission to just release out of it. A bolster might feel softer than the block, so you can use the bolster in the same way, or a block. This is option 2. Option 3 is to tuck and roll your shoulder. So I'm going to shift my weight onto the right shoulder, and I'm going to tuck and roll my left shoulder under. I'm going to create a shelf here. And then I'm going to shift to the left shoulder, tuck and roll my right. You might clasp your hands behind your back. You might not. You might just leave them open. This is option 3. Pressing your heels into the mat, creating this shelf with your shoulders, and pressing the hips up, pressing the heart up and open. So you choose. I'm going to choose option 2 because that feels really welcome to my body. but you can choose whatever you want. And we'll just be here for about 3 more rounds of breath. And just know that you can always change your mind. If you started with one and you want to explore a different option, you can change your mind. There's no rules saying you have to stay with the first one you picked. Last breath here. And then if you are ready to release this shape, because if you're not, you don't have to move out of this shape. You can take as much time as you want here. If you have a bolster or a block underneath you, you could press your heels into the floor, remove that prop from underneath you, and then settle the hips back down. And we'll just pause here for a moment. Noticing what's present for you, what kind of emotions, sensations are coming up. And again, you don't have to figure out what to do with these emotions or sensations. And you also don't need to know why that emotion or why that sensation is coming up. It's okay to just feel what you're feeling. Allow it to move through you if it feels okay to do that. And allowing that to be the experience in this moment. Knowing that that in and of itself is healing. Just feeling what you are currently feeling without trying to change it, without trying to fix it. If at any point you'd like to pull your knees in toward your chest, maybe rock from side to side. Whenever you're ready to release, you might do so. And then here you have the choice. You could either continue to rest here, soaking up whatever it is you're still receiving in this moment, or continuing to release whatever it is you're letting go of. Or if at any point you feel ready to shift to your side, and then press yourself up. You could do that as well. I thank you for joining me for this class today. My hope for you is that you would feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. And I see you and I acknowledge you and the courage it has taken to get to this place on your mat today, to get to where you are today. And so I celebrate you. Thank you.